The phone wouldn't stop ringing. Talia Washington stood frozen in the sterile office hallway, watching her supervisor Mr. Peterson clutch his chest and gasp for air as he crumpled to the polished floor. His face had turned an alarming shade of gray, and sweat beaded on his forehead despite the building's air conditioning. The ringing phone on his desk seemed to mock the emergency unfolding before her eyes. "Mr. Peterson, are you okay?" she whispered, dropping her cleaning supplies and rushing to his side. But he couldn't respond, only pointing weakly toward his desk where the phone continued its urgent song. At 7 months pregnant, Talia moved as quickly as she could, her rounded belly making every step deliberate. She reached across the mahogany desk, accidentally knocking over a framed photo and some papers in her haste. Among the scattered documents, a black and white ultrasound image caught her eye for just a moment before she grabbed the phone. "Hello," she answered breathlessly, her heart pounding from fear and exertion. "Peterson, finally. I've been trying to reach you for an hour." The voice was deep, commanding, and clearly agitated. "Is this ultrasound really yours? The one you left on my desk during our meeting today?" Talia glanced down at the ultrasound photo she'd accidentally uncovered. It showed a tiny baby, perfectly formed, with measurements and dates written along the edges. Her own ultrasound was tucked safely in her purse, but this one looked remarkably similar. She started, then looked back at Mr. Peterson, who was now trying to sit up against the wall, his breathing still labored. "Look, I don't care about your personal life, but when you leave something like this in my office it makes me think. My assistant mentioned you've been having money troubles. Medical bills are expensive, especially for a baby. I want to help." The words hit Talia like a physical force. Help. When was the last time someone had offered to help her with anything? She worked 3 jobs to make ends meet, lived in a tiny apartment with a leaking roof, and hadn't been to a doctor in 2 months because she couldn't afford it. But what kind of person were you raised to be? Would you really let pride stand in the way of getting help for your unborn child? If you believe that sometimes strangers can be angels in disguise, subscribe now and tell me in the comments what you would do in Talia's situation. "Sir, I think there's been a mistake," Talia began, but her voice caught in her throat as she watched Mr. Peterson struggle to his feet. "What kind of mistake? You're Peterson, aren't you? You work for Hartwell Industries as a supervisor." Talia looked at her supervisor, who was now leaning heavily against the wall, gesturing for her to help him. She realized the caller must think she was Mr. Peterson's wife or someone close to him. "The ultrasound," the voice continued, "it's yours, right? 7 months along from what I can see." Talia's hand instinctively moved to her belly. 7 months was exactly how far along she was. The coincidence sent a chill down her spine. "Yes," she whispered, not entirely lying. Her own baby was indeed 7 months along. "Good. I'm Jonathan Mitchell, CEO of Mitchell Industries. Your husband has been working with my company on the Hartwell account. He mentioned during our meeting that his family was going through financial difficulties due to medical expenses." Jonathan Mitchell. Even Talia, who rarely had time to follow business news, knew that name. He was one of the youngest billionaires in the city, known for his technology empire and, according to the gossip magazines she occasionally glimpsed at the grocery store, his generous philanthropy. "Mr. Peterson isn't." She started, then stopped. Mr. Peterson was motioning frantically for her to continue the conversation while he caught his breath. "Look, I don't usually get involved in my associates' personal lives, but something about seeing that ultrasound touched me. Maybe it's because I never had a proper family growing up. I want to make sure your baby gets the best possible start in life." Talia's eyes filled with tears. 4 months she'd been surviving on hope and determination alone. Her baby's father had disappeared the moment she told him she was pregnant, leaving her to face everything alone. Her own family lived across the country and barely made enough to support themselves. "I'd like to cover all your remaining medical expenses," Jonathan continued. "Prenatal care, delivery, postnatal care, everything. Consider it an investment in the future." "Sir, I can't accept." Talia began, but the words felt hollow. Why couldn't she accept? Her baby deserved proper medical care. "Yes, you can and you will. Give me your information, and I'll have my assistant set everything up with your doctor's office tomorrow." Mr. Peterson had recovered enough to stand properly. He walked over to Talia and whispered, "Take the help. Your baby needs it." With trembling hands, Talia gave Jonathan her full name and contact information. She explained that she'd been seeing Dr. Martinez at the community health center but hadn't been able to afford regular visits. "Dr. Martinez is good, but I want you to see Dr. Sarah Kim at Metropolitan Medical Center. She's the best maternal fetal specialist in the city. I'll arrange for you to see her this week. Thank you, Talia whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. Thank you so much. Don't thank me yet. This is just the beginning. I want to make sure you have everything you need. Do you have a safe place to live? Proper nutrition? Transportation to medical appointments? Each question hit a nerve. Her apartment was barely habitable, she often skipped meals to save money, and she'd been taking 3 buses to get to medical appointments when she could afford them. I manage, she said quietly. That's not what I asked. I want honest answers so I can help properly. Something in his tone, firm but not unkind, made her want to trust him completely. My apartment has some problems and I don't have a car. I work several jobs to make ends meet. What kind of work do you do? Talia glanced at Mr. Peterson, who nodded encouragingly. I clean offices at night, work at a diner during the day and do some bookkeeping on weekends. There was a long pause. You're working 3 jobs while 7 months pregnant? I have to. The baby needs things and medical bills are expensive even with the payment plans. Not anymore. I'm going to arrange for a car service to take you to all your appointments. And I want you to cut back on work. Stress isn't good for the baby. Sir, I appreciate your generosity, but I can't just stop working. I have rent and bills and... How much do you need per month to cover your basic expenses? The question was so direct it caught her off guard. I don't know exactly. Maybe $1,500? Consider it done. I'll have my assistant arrange a monthly allowance until the baby is born and you're back on your feet. You can focus on staying healthy instead of worrying about money. Talia sank into Mr. Peterson's desk chair, overwhelmed by the sudden turn her life had taken. This morning she'd woken up worried about making her rent payment. Now a stranger was offering to take care of everything. Why are you doing this? She asked softly. Jonathan's voice became gentler. Because everyone deserves a chance and every child deserves to be born into a world where they're wanted and cared for. Money isn't worth anything if you can't use it to make a difference in someone's life. I promise I'll pay you back someday. I don't want you to pay me back. I want you to take care of yourself and that baby. And someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, I want you to remember this moment and pass the kindness forward. After they hung up, Talia sat in silence for several minutes. Mr. Peterson had gone to get some water and was feeling much better. Was that really Jonathan Mitchell? He asked when he returned. Yes. And he thinks I'm your wife. Mr. Peterson's eyes widened. Should you tell him the truth? Talia looked down at the ultrasound photo still lying on the desk. I don't know. He wants to help and my baby needs help. Does it matter who he thinks I am if his generosity can give my child a healthy start in life? I suppose not. But Talia, be careful. Men like that are used to getting what they want. Make sure you understand what he might expect in return. He didn't ask for anything except that I take care of myself and the baby. He said to pass the kindness forward someday. She stood up slowly, her back aching from the stress and excitement. Mr. Peterson, what if this is meant to be? What if this is the answer to all my prayers? Then accept it gratefully and don't look back. As Talia gathered her cleaning supplies to finish her work, she felt something she hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Real, tangible hope for her future and her baby's future. The next morning, Jonathan's assistant called to arrange her first appointment with Dr. Kim. Then a car service called to schedule her pickup. By evening, a check had been delivered to her apartment for the first month's allowance, along with a note that simply said, "Take care of yourself. Jam." For the first time in her pregnancy, Talia fell asleep without worrying about money. Instead, she dreamed of holding a healthy, happy baby in her arms. Dr. Sarah Kim's office was unlike any medical facility Talia had ever seen. The waiting room had comfortable chairs, soft music, and large windows that let in natural light. Fresh flowers adorned every table, and the staff spoke in gentle, respectful tones. Mrs. Washington? A nurse in bright blue scrubs smiled warmly. Dr. Kim is ready to see you. Talia followed her down a hallway lined with beautiful photographs of mothers and babies. Everything about this place radiated care and professionalism. Dr. Kim was a petite woman with kind eyes and an immediate way of putting Talia at ease. I understand Mr. Mitchell arranged for you to receive care here. He spoke very highly of you when his assistant called. He's been incredibly generous, Talia said, settling onto the examination table. I still can't believe this is real. Jonathan Mitchell is known for his philanthropy, but he usually works through foundations and organizations. It's unusual for him to get personally involved in individual cases. You must have made quite an impression. During the examination, Dr. Kim's thoroughness amazed Talia. She'd never had an ultrasound with such clear images or a doctor who took so much time explaining everything she was seeing. "Your baby looks perfect," Dr. Kim announced, pointing to the screen. "Strong heartbeat, good size, active movement. From what I can see, you've done an admirable job taking care of yourself despite challenging circumstances. I've tried my best. It shows. However, I do see some signs that you've been under significant stress. Your blood pressure is slightly elevated and you're measuring a bit small. Nothing dangerous, but we want to monitor you closely." Dr. Kim prescribed prenatal vitamins, recommended dietary changes, and scheduled weekly appointments for the remainder of the pregnancy. "I want you to promise me you'll follow the nutrition plan and reduce your stress levels as much as possible." "I promise." "And doctor, please make sure Mr. Mitchell's office gets copies of all the bills. I want him to see exactly where his money is going." "Of course." His assistant already arranged for direct billing, so you won't have to worry about any paperwork or payments. When Talia left the medical center, she found the same car service waiting for her. The driver, an elderly man named Frank, opened the door with a smile. "Mr. Mitchell asked me to take you grocery shopping if you'd like," he said. "He wants to make sure you have everything you need for proper nutrition." At the grocery store, Talia filled her cart with fresh fruits, vegetables, lean proteins, and whole grains. Food she'd only been able to buy occasionally now filled her kitchen. As she unpacked everything in her small apartment, she couldn't stop smiling. That evening her phone rang. The caller ID showed a number she now recognized. "How did your appointment go?" Jonathan's voice was warm with genuine interest. "Wonderfully. Dr. Kim is amazing and she says the baby looks perfect. I can't thank you enough." "Good. I'm glad to hear it. Did you get groceries?" "Yes, Frank helped me shop. I haven't had fresh salmon in months." Jonathan chuckled. "Salmon is excellent for brain development. What else did Dr. Kim recommend?" They talked for nearly an hour about the appointment, Talia's health, and her plans for the remaining weeks of pregnancy. Jonathan asked thoughtful questions and listened carefully to her answers. "I have a confession," he said finally. "I called Peterson today to check on how you were doing and he told me something interesting." Talia's heart stopped. "What did he tell you?" "He said his wife died 3 years ago and he never remarried. He also said the ultrasound picture I saw was from his desk drawer, a memento from when his late wife was pregnant with their son." The silence stretched between them. Talia felt her face burn with embarrassment and fear. "You're not his wife, are you?" Jonathan's voice was gentle, not accusatory. "No," she whispered. "I'm not. I work as a night janitor in his building. When he collapsed and your phone call came, I answered because I was trying to help. When you started talking about the ultrasound and offering help, I didn't know what to say. So you're a janitor who answered a phone call and let me assume you were someone else's wife so I would help with your medical expenses. Put that way it sounded terrible." "Yes, I'm sorry. I know I should have corrected your assumption right away, but when you offered to help, I thought about my baby and how much I needed what you were offering. I was selfish and dishonest." "Talia," Jonathan said quietly, "look at me. You can't see me. We're on the phone. Then listen carefully to what I'm about to say. You are a pregnant woman working multiple jobs to support yourself and your unborn child. When someone offered you help that could ensure your baby's health and well-being, you accepted it. That doesn't make you dishonest or selfish. That makes you a good mother." Tears began flowing down Talia's cheeks. "But I lied to you. You let me make an incorrect assumption because you were scared and desperate. There's a difference. And you know what? I'm glad you did. You are. If you had corrected me that first night, I might have hung up and never known about you or your situation. Instead, because of a misunderstanding and your quick thinking, I had the chance to help someone who really needed it. That's not deception, Talia. That's fate. So you're not angry? I'm impressed. You're working 3 jobs while 7 months pregnant, you stopped everything to help a man who was having a medical emergency, and when offered help for your baby, you had the courage to accept it. Those are the actions of someone with strength and good judgment. What happens now? Now we continue exactly as we started. I still want to cover all your medical expenses, I still want you to see Dr. Kim regularly, and I still want you to reduce your work schedule so you can focus on staying healthy. But you don't owe me anything. We're complete strangers. We're not strangers anymore. And I don't help people because I owe them something. I help people because it's the right thing to do and because I can." After they hung up, Talia sat in her small kitchen, surrounded by bags of healthy groceries she couldn't have afforded a week ago, and marveled at the strange turn her life had taken. A wrong number had connected her with someone who seemed to genuinely care about her well-being without expecting anything in return. Over the next few days, more help arrived. A local cleaning service called to say they'd been contracted to deep clean her apartment and address the maintenance issues. A maternity store delivered several outfits in her size with a note that said, "Every expecting mother deserves to feel beautiful." Jam. Frank began driving her to work and picking her up afterward, insisting it was all part of Mr. Mitchell's instructions. Her supervisors at all 3 jobs were understanding when she explained she needed to reduce her hours for her health. But the most surprising call came on Friday morning. "Talia, it's Jonathan. Are you free for lunch today? I work at the diner until 3. Not anymore. I spoke with your manager. You're going to focus on just one job from now on, something with regular hours and better conditions. I'd like to discuss some options with you over lunch if you're interested." The word "yes" was out of her mouth before she could think twice about it. "Perfect. Frank will pick you up at noon." The restaurant Frank brought her to was the kind of place Talia had only seen in movies. Crystal chandeliers, white linen tablecloths, and waiters in formal uniforms. She felt self-conscious in her simple green maternity dress, despite Jonathan's kind words about the clothes he'd sent. "Mr. Mitchell is waiting at his usual table," the hostess said, leading Talia through the dining room. Talia had seen Jonathan Mitchell's photo in business magazines, but meeting him in person was different. He was younger than she'd expected, probably in his early 30s with dark hair and intelligent brown eyes. He stood immediately when he saw her approaching. "Talia," he said warmly, extending his hand. "It's wonderful to finally meet you face to face." His handshake was firm but gentle, and his smile seemed genuine. "Thank you for coming. Please sit down. How are you feeling?" "Much better than I have in months, thanks to you." She settled into the plush chair, amazed by how comfortable it was. "Good. You look healthier already. Dr. Kim sent me a report saying your blood pressure has improved." The waiter appeared immediately. "The usual, Mr. Mitchell? Actually, let's start with the soup course today. And please make sure everything is pregnancy safe for my guest." "Of course, sir." Once they were alone, Jonathan leaned forward slightly. "I wanted to meet you because I have a proposition. But first, tell me about yourself. What did you do before you started working multiple jobs to make ends meet?" "I was studying to be a nurse. I made it through 2 years of the program before." She touched her belly lightly. "Before my priorities changed." "What happened to your support system? The baby's father?" Talia's face tightened. "He left when I told him I was pregnant. Said he wasn't ready for responsibilities. My family lives in Tennessee and they're struggling financially themselves. I didn't want to burden them." "So you took on the burden alone." "It's not a burden. The baby is wanted and loved. I just wasn't prepared for how expensive everything would be." Jonathan nodded approvingly. "That's exactly the attitude that convinced me to help you. You see challenges as problems to solve, not reasons to give up." The soup arrived, and Talia realized she was genuinely hungry for the first time in weeks. The stress that had been killing her appetite was finally beginning to fade. "Here's what I'd like to propose," Jonathan said between spoonfuls of soup. "I need a receptionist at Mitchell Industries. Someone intelligent, responsible, and good with people. The job offers excellent benefits, including health insurance that would cover you and your baby, paid maternity leave, and flexible scheduling for when you want to return to nursing school." Talia nearly choked on her soup. "You want to offer me a job? A real job with real responsibilities and real pay? This isn't charity, Talia. I've seen how you handle yourself under pressure and I need people like that working for me. But I don't have any office experience. You do bookkeeping on weekends, which means you understand basic business operations. You've been managing multiple jobs and schedules while pregnant, which shows excellent organizational skills. And you answered my phone call that first night with professionalism despite dealing with an emergency. I was terrified that whole conversation. But you handled it well anyway. That's what matters in business." The main course arrived, perfectly prepared salmon with vegetables. Talia savored every bite, marveling at how different her life felt now compared to just a week ago. "What would my responsibilities be?" "Managing my calendar, screening phone calls, greeting visitors, and helping coordinate meetings. Basic reception work, but in a busy office where attention to detail matters." "And you'd really provide health insurance?" "Full coverage for you and dependents. The maternity leave policy is 12 weeks paid, with the option to extend unpaid if needed. And when you're ready to return to nursing school, we can arrange your work schedule around your classes." Talia set down her fork and stared at him. Why are you doing all this? Jonathan was quiet for a moment, choosing his words carefully. When I was growing up, my mother cleaned offices at night to support us. She worked multiple jobs, sacrificed everything for my education and future. I watched her struggle with medical bills and worry about money every single day. What happened to her? She died when I was in college. A heart attack brought on by years of stress and poor medical care because she couldn't afford regular checkups. His voice became softer. By the time I became successful enough to help her, it was too late. Understanding dawned on Talia's face. So helping me is like helping her. Partly. But also because you remind me that there are still people in this world who work hard and try to do right by their families despite difficult circumstances. Those are the people worth investing in. I accept your offer, Talia said without hesitation. With deep gratitude. Good. Can you start Monday? I'll have HR prepare all the paperwork and get you set up with an office and computer. Monday is perfect. They finished lunch talking about practical details. Jonathan explained the office layout, introduced her to the idea of managing a busy executive schedule, and assured her that his assistant manager would train her thoroughly. One more thing, he said as they prepared to leave. I want you to feel comfortable asking for anything you need. If work becomes too stressful as your due date approaches, we'll adjust your responsibilities. If you need time off for medical appointments, take it. This job is meant to make your life easier, not harder. In the car afterward, Talia called her landlord and gave notice on her apartment. Jonathan had arranged for her to move into a safer, more comfortable place closer to the office. Everything was happening so fast, but for the first time in months, the changes in her life felt positive instead of overwhelming. That evening she called her mother in Tennessee. Mama, you're not going to believe what's happened to me. After explaining everything, her mother was quiet for a long time. Baby girl, this sounds too good to be true. Are you sure this man doesn't expect something in return? He's been nothing but respectful and kind. He offered me a real job with real responsibilities. I think he just understands what it's like to struggle. Well, you've always been a good judge of character. If your instincts say he's trustworthy, then I trust your judgment. But promise me you'll be careful. I promise, Mama. And maybe soon I'll be able to fly you out here to meet your grandchild. I'd like that very much. After hanging up, Talia sat in her small apartment, packing her few belongings into boxes Jonathan's movers would collect tomorrow. She picked up the ultrasound photo from her last appointment, showing a baby who looked healthy and strong. We're going to be okay, she whispered to her unborn child. Better than okay. We're going to have a real life. Monday morning arrived with autumn sunshine streaming through the windows of Talia's new apartment. The place Jonathan had found for her was like stepping into a different world. 2 bedrooms, a modern kitchen, a living room with space for a nursery corner, and best of all, no leaking roof or broken appliances. Frank arrived precisely at 8 o'clock to drive her to Mitchell Industries for her first day of work. Nervous? He asked, glancing at her in the rearview mirror. Terrified, Talia admitted, smoothing her new maroon maternity blouse. I keep thinking I'm going to wake up and discover this was all a dream. Mr. Mitchell doesn't make promises he can't keep. You'll do fine. The Mitchell Industries building was a gleaming tower of glass and steel in the heart of downtown. The lobby buzzed with activity as professionally dressed people hurried to elevators with cups of coffee and briefcases. Jonathan was waiting for her at the reception desk on the 15th floor, talking with a woman in her 40s who had kind eyes and graying hair pulled back in a neat bun. Talia, perfect timing. I'd like you to meet Rebecca Chen, our office manager. She'll be training you this week. Rebecca smiled warmly and shook Talia's hand. Welcome to Mitchell Industries. I've heard wonderful things about you. Thank you. I'm excited to learn. Jonathan led them to a spacious reception area with a curved desk, comfortable seating for visitors, and large windows overlooking the city. This will be your workspace. Rebecca will show you how everything operates, and I'll check in with you throughout the day to make sure you're comfortable. The morning flew by as Rebecca explained the phone system, showed Talia how to manage Jonathan's calendar, and introduced her to various staff members who would be frequent contacts. Everyone was welcoming and professional. Mr. Mitchell is different from other executives I've worked for, Rebecca confided during lunch. He actually cares about his employees as people, not just workers. He's been incredibly kind to me. He mentioned you're expecting. How far along are you? 7 months. Mr. Mitchell arranged for me to see Dr. Kim at Metropolitan Medical. Rebecca's eyebrows rose. Dr. Kim is excellent. My daughter had complications with her pregnancy last year, and Dr. Kim saved both her life and the baby's life. You're in the best possible hands. The afternoon brought a steady stream of visitors, phone calls, and calendar adjustments. Talia discovered she had a natural talent for managing multiple tasks while maintaining a calm, professional demeanor. At 5 o'clock, Jonathan appeared at her desk. How was your first day? Busy but wonderful. Everyone has been so welcoming. Any problems or concerns? Just one small thing. I noticed you have a meeting scheduled with Peterson Industries next week. That's where I used to work as a janitor. Will that be awkward? Jonathan considered this. Not at all. You're here because of your qualifications and potential, not because of any connection to Peterson Industries. If anything, Mr. Peterson should be proud that someone from his building has moved on to bigger opportunities. I hadn't thought of it that way. Talia, I want you to understand something important. You belong here not because I'm doing you a favor, but because you've earned this position. Don't let anyone, including yourself, make you feel otherwise. Over the next few weeks, Talia settled into her new role with growing confidence. She learned to anticipate Jonathan's needs, managed his complex schedule with skill, and earned respect from colleagues and clients alike. The changes in her life were remarkable. Regular medical care with Dr. Kim showed that her blood pressure had normalized and the baby was thriving. Her new apartment felt like a real home. The steady paycheck and excellent benefits gave her security she'd never experienced. But perhaps the most significant change was her growing friendship with Jonathan. Their conversations had evolved from polite professional exchanges to genuine discussions about books, current events, and their hopes for the future. You seem different lately, Rebecca observed one afternoon. More confident. I feel different. For the first time in my adult life, I'm not worried about making ends meet. It's liberating. Mr. Mitchell mentioned you want to return to nursing school eventually. Once the baby is a little older and I can manage both school and work. He's promised to arrange my schedule around classes. He keeps his promises. When my husband was diagnosed with cancer 2 years ago, Mr. Mitchell personally ensured I had all the time off I needed and that our insurance covered every treatment. Not many bosses would do that. That evening, Talia was organizing files when Jonathan stopped by her desk. Working late. Just finishing up some filing. I wanted everything perfect for tomorrow's board meeting. The files can wait. You should go home and rest. I don't mind staying. I'm grateful to have work that matters. Jonathan sat down in one of the chairs facing her desk. Can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you ever hear from the baby's father? Talia's expression tightened slightly. No, and I don't expect to. He made his position very clear. That must be difficult. At first it was. But now I think the baby and I are better off without someone who didn't want to be part of our lives. You're probably right. Children deserve parents who choose to be there, not parents who feel obligated. Did your father choose to be there for you? My father left when I was 5. Said providing for a family was too much responsibility. Jonathan's voice was matter-of-fact, but Talia could hear old pain underneath. My mother never spoke badly of him, but I could see how much his absence hurt her. I'm sorry. It worked out for the best. It taught me that being a parent is a choice you make every day, not just a biological fact. Is that why you've never married or had children? Jonathan smiled. Who says I haven't thought about it? I just haven't found the right person to build that life with. Something in his tone made Talia look at him more closely. There was warmth in his eyes that hadn't been there when they'd first met. You will, she said softly. Someone who deserves your kindness. I hope so. And Talia, I hope you know that whatever happens in the future, you and your baby will always have my support. Not because of how we met, but because you've become important to me. The words hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning neither of them was quite ready to examine. Thank you, Talia whispered. For everything. After Jonathan left, Talia sat quietly at her desk, processing his words. The connection between them was growing stronger each day, but she wasn't sure if she was reading the signals correctly or simply projecting her own growing feelings onto his kindness. What she did know was that for the first time since learning she was pregnant, she felt genuinely hopeful about the future. Not just surviving but thriving. 3 weeks later, Talia was settling into a comfortable routine when her phone buzzed with a text from Jonathan. Emergency board meeting moved to this afternoon. Can you stay late to help prepare materials? Of course, she texted back, then called Frank to let him know she'd need a later pickup. By 7 o'clock, most of the office had emptied out, leaving just Talia and Jonathan working to organize presentation materials and coordinate conference calls with board members in different time zones. I'm sorry to keep you so late, Jonathan said, loosening his tie as they worked side by side in his office. Especially in your condition. I'm pregnant, not fragile. Besides, I like feeling useful. You're more than useful, Talia. You've become indispensable. Rebecca told me she's never seen someone master this job so quickly. They worked in comfortable silence for a while, Talia organizing documents while Jonathan made notes on his laptop. The city lights twinkled outside his floor-to-ceiling windows, creating an intimate atmosphere. Can I ask you something? Talia said suddenly. Always. Why did you really offer me this job? And please don't say it's just because I remind you of your mother. Jonathan stopped typing and looked at her carefully. You want the honest answer? I always want the honest answer. That first phone call, when you were trying to help Mr. Peterson while talking to a complete stranger about medical bills and pregnancy, you handled everything with such grace under pressure. Most people would have panicked or hung up. You stayed calm and did what needed to be done. I was terrified. But you didn't let terror stop you from helping someone or from accepting help when it was offered. That kind of character is rare. Talia felt warmth spread through her chest. Thank you for seeing something in me that I didn't see in myself. What do you mean? Before I met you, I felt like I was barely surviving. Working multiple jobs, worrying constantly about money, wondering if I was strong enough to be a good mother on my own. Now I feel capable and confident. You were always capable and confident. You just needed the right circumstances to show it. The baby chose that moment to give Talia a particularly strong kick, making her gasp and place both hands on her belly. Are you okay? Jonathan was at her side immediately, concern written across his face. Fine. The baby is just very active tonight. She smiled and took his hand, placing it gently on her belly where the movement was strongest. Feel that? Jonathan's eyes widened as he felt the baby kick against his palm. That's incredible. So strong. Dr. Kim says that's a good sign. Active babies are usually healthy babies. They stood close together, Jonathan's hand still resting on her belly, both of them marveling at the life growing inside her. The moment felt intimate and precious. Talia, Jonathan said softly, not moving his hand. I need to tell you something. Before he could continue, his office door opened and Rebecca walked in carrying takeout bags. I thought you two might be hungry, she said, then stopped short when she saw their position. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt. Jonathan stepped back quickly, his cheeks slightly flushed. You're not interrupting anything. Thank you for thinking of us. But as they ate dinner and finished the evening's work, Talia couldn't stop thinking about what Jonathan had been about to say and the way he'd looked at her when he felt the baby move. Over the next few days, their interactions took on a different quality. Jonathan found excuses to stop by her desk more frequently. Their conversations lingered longer. He brought her herbal tea when she mentioned feeling tired and made sure she had comfortable cushions for her chair. You're glowing, Rebecca commented one morning. Pregnancy suits you. I think happiness suits me, Talia replied. I never realized how much stress I was carrying until it was gone. It's more than that. You and Mr. Mitchell seem to have developed a real friendship. He's been wonderful to me. He looks at you differently than he looks at other employees. Like you matter to him personally, not just professionally. That afternoon, Talia was reviewing Jonathan's schedule when she noticed something that made her smile. He'd blocked out time every Tuesday and Thursday afternoon with a note that simply said, tea appointments. It took her a moment to realize he was protecting her medical appointment times, making sure he had no meetings that might require her to work late on those days. When he returned from lunch, she was waiting with a cup of his favorite coffee and a grateful expression. Thank you for scheduling around my appointments, she said, placing the coffee on his desk. I don't know what you mean. Tea appointments, Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Jonathan's ears turned slightly red. I just wanted to make sure you never had to choose between work and your health. That's very thoughtful. Talia, about the other night in my office. Mr. Mitchell? Rebecca's voice came through the intercom. Your 2:00 appointment is here early. Send them in, Jonathan said, frustration clear in his voice. But that evening, as Talia prepared to leave for the day, Jonathan appeared at her desk again. Would you like to have dinner with me tomorrow night? Somewhere quiet where we can actually finish a conversation? Talia's heart began beating faster. Is this a business dinner? No. This is me asking you on a date. The word, date, hung between them, finally giving a name to what had been building for weeks. I'd like that very much, Talia said softly. Good. I'll pick you up at 7. As Frank drove her home, Talia pressed her hand to her belly and whispered to her baby, I think your mama might be falling in love. The baby responded with a gentle flutter, as if in approval. How many of you believe that true love can grow from the simplest acts of kindness? If you think Talia deserves this happiness after everything she's been through, hit that subscribe button and let me know in the comments what you hope happens on their first official date. The restaurant Jonathan chose for their date was intimate and cozy, with soft lighting and quiet corners perfect for private conversation. Talia wore a flowing blue maternity dress that made her feel elegant despite her rounded figure. You look beautiful, Jonathan said as he helped her into her chair. Thank you. I feel beautiful, which is something I haven't felt in a long time. Over dinner, their conversation flowed easily from work topics to personal dreams and fears. Jonathan talked about his plans to expand his company's charitable foundation. Talia shared her hopes of becoming a pediatric nurse specializing in infant care. I want to help other mothers navigate what I've been through, she explained. Maybe work with low-income families or teenage mothers who need support and guidance. You'd be perfect for that. You have natural empathy and first-hand experience with the challenges they face. It feels like a way to honor what you've done for me. Paying the kindness forward like you said. As the evening progressed, the connection between them deepened. Jonathan reached across the table to take her hand during dessert. Talia, I need you to know that my feelings for you have nothing to do with gratitude or sympathy. You've become important to me because of who you are, not because of your circumstances. I feel the same way about you. But Jonathan, I'm about to have another man's baby. That's a lot to take on. Children are a blessing, not a burden. If you'll let me, I'd like to be part of both your lives. Talia's eyes filled with tears of happiness. I'd like that too. They were walking to Jonathan's car, her hand tucked into his arm, when a familiar voice called out behind them. Well, look what we have here. Talia turned to see Tommy Rodriguez, her baby's father, standing under a streetlight. He looked the same as always, handsome in a careless way, wearing jeans and a leather jacket, with that cocky smile that had once charmed her. Tommy, Talia said, instinctively moving closer to Jonathan. What are you doing here? I heard through some mutual friends that you've been living large lately. New apartment, fancy job, expensive restaurants. His eyes moved to Jonathan with obvious calculation. Found yourself a sugar daddy, did you? Watch your tone, Jonathan said quietly, but his voice carried unmistakable authority. And who are you exactly? Tommy stepped closer, his posture aggressive. I'm Jonathan Mitchell. And you are? Tommy Rodriguez, the father of her baby. He gestured toward Talia with a proprietary air that made her skin crawl. The father who abandoned her when she needed support most, Jonathan replied evenly. I never abandoned anybody. I just wasn't ready for instant family life. But I've been thinking lately, and maybe it's time I stepped up and took responsibility for what's mine. Nothing about me or my baby is yours, Talia said firmly. You made your choice months ago. People change, babe. I've got a steady job now and I'm ready to be a father. In fact, I've been talking to a lawyer about my parental rights. The words hit Talia like a physical blow. Your rights. I'm the biological father. That gives me certain legal standing whether you like it or not. Jonathan stepped between Tommy and Talia. I think this conversation is over. Ms. Washington, would you like me to call the police? No need for police, Tommy said, raising his hands in mock surrender. I'm not causing trouble. Just letting the mother of my child know that I'm back and ready to be involved. We'll be in touch, Talia. He walked away with deliberate casualness, but not before giving Jonathan a look that promised future problems. In the car, Talia was quiet and tense. Jonathan didn't push her to talk until they reached her apartment building. Are you okay? No, she said honestly. I'm terrified. What if he really has talked to a lawyer? What if he can force his way back into my life? We'll handle it together. I have excellent lawyers and we'll make sure your rights and the baby's best interests are protected. Why would he want to be involved now? He couldn't get away from me fast enough when I first told him about the pregnancy. Maybe he's sincere about wanting to be a father. Or maybe seeing you happy and successful made him jealous and possessive. Either way, I don't want him in my life. He had his chance to be supportive and loving and he chose to walk away. Jonathan walked her to her door and held her gently while she cried out her fear and frustration. I won't let him hurt you, he promised. Whatever it takes, I'll make sure you and the baby are safe and secure. This isn't your fight, Jonathan. Yes, it is. You're important to me, which makes this my fight too. The next morning brought an envelope slipped under Talia's apartment door. Inside was a formal letter from a law office stating that Tommy Rodriguez was asserting his parental rights and requesting a paternity test and custody arrangements. Talia called Jonathan immediately. "I'll have my legal team review it today," he assured her. "Don't let this stress you out. Stress isn't good for the baby." "How can I not be stressed? What if he gets partial custody? What if I have to share my child with someone who never wanted her in the first place?" "Talia, listen to me. Courts care about the best interests of the child. You're a stable, employed mother with excellent prenatal care and a strong support system. He's someone who abandoned you during pregnancy and only showed interest when he learned you were doing well. Any judge will see the difference." At work, Talia found it difficult to concentrate. Rebecca noticed her distress and offered support, as did several other colleagues who'd grown fond of her. "Mr. Mitchell told us what happened," Rebecca said during lunch. "The whole office is behind you. I feel like I'm bringing my personal drama into the workplace." "Nonsense. Your family here. When family has problems, we all help solve them." That afternoon, Jonathan's lead attorney, Patricia Williams, came to the office to meet with Talia. She was a sharp-eyed woman in her 50s who radiated competence and determination. "I've reviewed the letter from Mr. Rodriguez's attorney," she said. "It's a fairly standard paternity and custody filing, but there are some things working in your favor." "Like what?" "First, he voluntarily relinquished any involvement during the pregnancy, which courts typically view unfavorably. Second, you can demonstrate that you've been the sole provider and decision-maker throughout the pregnancy. Third, you have documented proof of your stability and responsibility. But he does have biological rights, doesn't he? Biological connection is just one factor courts consider. They're more interested in what's best for the child's welfare and development." Patricia outlined a legal strategy that focused on Talia's fitness as a mother and Tommy's abandonment during pregnancy. She also suggested documenting any interactions with Tommy to establish a pattern of his behavior and motivations. "I want you to be prepared for the possibility that he may receive some visitation rights," Patricia warned. "But we'll fight for arrangements that prioritize the baby's safety and your peace of mind." That evening, Jonathan took Talia to dinner at a quiet bistro near her apartment. "How are you handling all this?" he asked gently. "Better than I expected, thanks to you and Patricia. But I keep wondering what would have happened if I hadn't met you. I'd be facing this alone with no resources and no support. But you did meet me, and you're not facing it alone. Jonathan, if Tommy gets visitation rights, it's going to complicate things between us. Are you really ready for that kind of ongoing drama?" Jonathan reached across the table and took her hand. "Talia, I'm not going anywhere. Whatever comes, we'll handle it together. Even if it means dealing with my ex and custody battles and all the messiness that comes with that. Especially then. That's when you'll need support the most." As they walked back to her apartment, Talia felt a sense of determination building. Tommy had caught her off guard with his sudden reappearance, but she wasn't the same frightened, desperate woman he'd abandoned months ago. She had people who cared about her, resources to fight for what was right, and most importantly, she had Jonathan by her side. "Thank you," she told him as they reached her door. "For what?" "For not running when things got complicated. I told you before, I'm not going anywhere." That night, as she felt the baby moving inside her, Talia whispered, "Don't worry, little one. Mama's got this figured out." The next few weeks brought a flurry of legal activity. Patricia Williams worked tirelessly to build Talia's case while Tommy's lawyer pushed for expedited hearings and immediate paternity testing. Through it all, Jonathan remained a steady source of support, accompanying Talia to legal meetings and ensuring she had everything she needed. "I still don't understand why you're doing all this," Talia said one evening as they reviewed legal documents in Jonathan's office. "This could get expensive and time-consuming, and it's not even your problem." Jonathan set down the papers he'd been reading and looked at her seriously. "Can I tell you something I've never told anyone else?" "Of course. When I was 12 years old, my mother started seeing a man named Robert Chin. He was kind to both of us, helped with bills, and treated me like his own son. For 2 years we were a real family. What happened? Robert's ex-wife decided she wanted him back. She used their shared children as leverage, making it difficult for him to see them unless he chose her over us. Eventually the pressure was too much and he left." Talia could see the pain in Jonathan's eyes, even decades later. "My mother never got over it. She'd found happiness and stability, and then it was taken away because someone else decided they wanted what she had. She never trusted anyone enough to love them again. I'm sorry. I watched her spend the rest of her life working herself to death, always alone, because one person's selfishness destroyed her faith in people. Jonathan's voice became stronger. I swore I would never let someone I cared about go through that if I had the power to prevent it. So you're protecting me because you couldn't protect her. I'm protecting you because you deserve protection. And because I love you. The words hung in the air between them. It was the first time either of them had said it directly. I love you too, Talia whispered. But Jonathan, I'm scared. What if the court gives Tommy partial custody? What if this situation never gets resolved? Then we'll deal with it. Together. But I have faith that the truth will come out. What truth? That Tommy doesn't really want to be a father. He wants to control you and prove that he can take back what he gave up. The preliminary hearing was scheduled for the following week. Patricia prepared Talia thoroughly, explaining what to expect and how to present herself to the judge. Be honest about everything, Patricia advised. Don't try to make Tommy look worse than he is, just tell the truth about what happened and how his absence affected you. On the morning of the hearing, Jonathan accompanied Talia to the courthouse. Tommy was there with his lawyer, a young man who looked like he specialized in quick settlements rather than complex family law. Judge Margaret Santos was a woman in her 60s with intelligent eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed both parties' filings carefully before addressing the courtroom. This is a preliminary hearing to establish the basic facts of this case, she announced. Mr. Rodriguez, you're claiming paternal rights to a child who will be born in approximately 6 weeks. Ms. Washington, you're contesting those rights based on Mr. Rodriguez's abandonment during pregnancy. Is that correct? Both lawyers confirmed the judge's summary. Ms. Washington, please describe your relationship with Mr. Rodriguez and the circumstances of this pregnancy. Talia spoke clearly and calmly about meeting Tommy, their brief relationship, her pregnancy announcement, and his immediate departure from her life. Did Mr. Rodriguez provide any financial or emotional support during your pregnancy? No, Your Honor. I haven't heard from him once since the day I told him I was pregnant until he approached me at a restaurant 3 weeks ago. Mr. Rodriguez, why didn't you provide support during the pregnancy? Tommy's lawyer whispered something to him before he answered. I was young and scared, Your Honor. I needed time to process the information and figure out what kind of father I could be. 8 months is a considerable amount of processing time, Judge Santos observed dryly. What changed your mind about wanting to be involved? I realized I was making a mistake. I want to step up and be responsible for my child. Ms. Washington, what are your concerns about Mr. Rodriguez having parental rights? Talia took a deep breath. Your Honor, he had the opportunity to be supportive and involved from the beginning and he chose not to be. I'm concerned that his sudden interest has more to do with interfering with my life than with genuine care for the baby. What makes you think that? When he approached me, he made comments about my improved financial situation and seemed more interested in who I was dating than in how the pregnancy was progressing or the baby's health. Judge Santos made notes before addressing Tommy again. Mr. Rodriguez, did you make any attempt to contact Ms. Washington during her pregnancy to check on her well-being or the baby's development? No, Your Honor, but... Did you contribute to any medical expenses or prenatal care? No, Your Honor, but I was dealing with my own financial issues. Are you currently employed? Tommy's lawyer whispered to him again. Yes, Your Honor. I've been working for the past 4 months. And before that? I was between jobs. Judge Santos reviewed her notes. Ms. Washington, how have you supported yourself during this pregnancy? I worked multiple jobs until recently, Your Honor. I now work as a receptionist at Mitchell Industries, which provides excellent health insurance and benefits. Have you received any other assistance? Talia glanced at Jonathan, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, Your Honor. Mr. Jonathan Mitchell, my employer, has provided financial assistance to ensure I receive proper medical care. Is Mr. Mitchell the father of your child? No, Your Honor. He's someone who offered help when he learned about my situation. Judge Santos looked at Jonathan for the first time. Mr. Mitchell, you're not a party to this case. Why are you here? Jonathan stood. Your Honor, I'm here to support Ms. Washington. I've witnessed her dedication to this pregnancy and her commitment to being the best possible mother. What is your relationship to Ms. Washington? I'm her employer and someone who cares deeply about her welfare and the baby's welfare. I see. Judge Santos made more notes. Mr. Rodriguez, can you explain why you believe it's in the child's best interest for you to have parental rights after 8 months of absence? Tommy looked uncomfortable. Every child deserves to know their father, Your Honor. That's a general statement. I'm asking specifically about this child and your ability to contribute positively to their life. Tommy's lawyer stood. Your Honor, My client acknowledges he made mistakes early on, but he's prepared to take on his responsibilities now. What responsibilities specifically? The lawyer looked uncertain. Financial support, visitation, participation in major decisions. Has your client prepared for any of these responsibilities? Does he have appropriate housing for an infant? Has he taken parenting classes or educated himself about newborn care? The silence stretched uncomfortably long. Judge Santos closed her files. I'm going to order a temporary restraining order preventing Mr. Rodriguez from contacting Ms. Washington until after the baby is born, and we can revisit this matter with more complete information. In the meantime, I strongly encourage Mr. Rodriguez to demonstrate his commitment to fatherhood through concrete actions rather than legal filings. Outside the courthouse, Tommy was clearly angry. This isn't over, he called out as Talia and Jonathan walked to their car. I'll get my rights eventually. Ignore him, Jonathan advised. Judge Santos saw right through him. Patricia was pleased with the outcome. The restraining order gives us time to prepare a stronger case and for you to demonstrate continued stability. By the time we go back to court, you'll have a healthy baby and a track record of excellent parenting. That evening, Jonathan took Talia to her favorite restaurant to celebrate the legal victory. I can't believe how well that went, she said over dinner. Judge Santos asked exactly the right questions. She saw what everyone else sees, that you're a devoted mother-to-be and Tommy is an opportunist. What happens now? Now we focus on the future. Your baby, your career, your education, your happiness. Our future? Jonathan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. Talia, I know this might seem sudden, but I've been thinking about this for weeks. Talia's heart began pounding as he opened the box to reveal a beautiful diamond ring. I love you and I love the baby you're carrying. I want to be your husband and the father your child deserves. Will you marry me? Tears streamed down Talia's face as she looked at the ring, then at Jonathan's hopeful expression. Yes, she whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. As Jonathan slipped the ring onto her finger, Talia felt a completeness she'd never experienced before. The baby kicked strongly as if celebrating along with them. I love you so much, she told him. Both of us do. I love you both too. More than I ever thought possible. The engagement ring caught the light as Talia typed, creating tiny rainbows across her computer screen. 3 weeks had passed since Jonathan's proposal, and the happiness hadn't faded. If anything, it had grown stronger as they made plans for their future together. The wedding planner called, Rebecca mentioned, stopping by Talia's desk with a cup of herbal tea. She has some questions about the ceremony timeline. Thank you. We're trying to keep everything simple since I'm due in 3 weeks. Simple but beautiful. Mr. Mitchell has been glowing lately. I've never seen him this happy. It was true. Jonathan seemed lighter, more relaxed, as if finding love had lifted a weight from his shoulders that he'd carried for years. Talia? Dr. Kim's office was calling. This is Jennifer from Dr. Kim's office. We need to schedule your weekly appointment. Of course. Is Thursday afternoon still available? Actually, Dr. Kim would like to see you tomorrow if possible. Your last blood work showed some changes she wants to monitor more closely. Talia's hand instinctively moved to her belly. What kind of changes? Nothing dangerous, just some indicators that you might deliver earlier than expected. She wants to discuss the signs to watch for and make sure you're prepared. After hanging up, Talia found Jonathan in his office reviewing quarterly reports. Dr. Kim wants to see me tomorrow. She thinks the baby might come early. Jonathan immediately closed his laptop. How early? She didn't say. The nurse mentioned it's nothing dangerous, just that I should be prepared. I'm coming with you to the appointment. You don't have to. I know you have the board presentation tomorrow. The board presentation can wait. This is more important. The next day, Dr. Kim examined Talia thoroughly and reviewed her latest test results. Everything looks good, she assured them. The baby is healthy and fully developed. Your blood pressure and other indicators suggest you might go into labor within the next week or two, which is perfectly normal for a first pregnancy. Is there anything we should be concerned about? Jonathan asked, holding Talia's hand. Not at all. Babies come when they're ready. I just want Talia to be aware of the signs of early labor so she can get to the hospital in time. Dr. Kim provided detailed instructions about contractions, water breaking, and when to call her office. She also gave them a list of what to pack for the hospital and emphasized the importance of staying calm. Do you have a birthing plan? Dr. Kim asked. I want Jonathan in the delivery room if he's comfortable with that, Talia said. I wouldn't want to be anywhere else, Jonathan replied immediately. Perfect. And after the birth? Jonathan is going to adopt the baby legally, Talia explained. We want her to have his name and all the security that provides. Dr. Kim smiled. That's wonderful. I'll make sure all the paperwork is ready for you to sign after delivery. That evening they packed Talia's hospital bag together. Jonathan had insisted on buying everything on the list and more, including comfortable pajamas, a nursing pillow and several outfits for the baby in different sizes. What if she comes tonight? Talia asked as they folded tiny onesies and blankets. Then we'll handle it. Frank is on standby to drive us to the hospital anytime, day or night. My phone is always on and I've cleared my schedule for the next month. A whole month. I want to be here for you and the baby. Work can wait. 2 days later, Talia was at her desk when she felt the first real contraction. It wasn't painful, just a tightening sensation across her belly that lasted about 30 seconds. She glanced at the clock and made a note. Dr. Kim had said to time contractions and call when they were 5 minutes apart. 20 minutes later, another one came. Then 15 minutes after that. By lunchtime, the contractions were becoming more regular and slightly more intense. Talia decided it was time to let Jonathan know what was happening. I think today might be the day, she told him when he returned from a meeting. Jonathan's eyes widened. Are you in labor? Early labor, I think. The contractions are still pretty far apart, but they're getting stronger. Jonathan immediately called Dr. Kim's office while Talia gathered her personal items from her desk. Rebecca appeared with the hospital bag they'd kept in the office closet just in case. Dr. Kim wants you to come in now, Jonathan reported. She'd rather check you at the hospital than have you travel during active labor. The drive to the hospital was surreal. Talia felt surprisingly calm, even as the contractions intensified. Jonathan held her hand and spoke soothingly about how excited he was to meet their daughter. Our daughter, Talia repeated. I love the sound of that. At the hospital, Dr. Kim confirmed that Talia was in early labor and admitted her for delivery. It could be several hours or it could be much faster, Dr. Kim explained. First babies are unpredictable. Jonathan never left her side. When the contractions became painful, he held her hand and coached her breathing. When she needed to walk the halls to help labor progress, he walked with her. When she wanted ice chips, he made sure she had them. You're amazing, he told her during a quiet moment between contractions. So strong and brave. I don't feel brave. I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Nobody knows what they're doing the first time. We'll figure it out together. As evening approached, the contractions intensified dramatically. Dr. Kim checked Talia's progress and smiled. It's time to meet your baby. Let's move to the delivery room. The next hour passed in a blur of intensity and focus. Jonathan stayed by Talia's head, holding her hand and whispering encouragement. When Dr. Kim announced that she could see the baby's head, both of them began crying with joy and anticipation. One more push, Talia, Dr. Kim encouraged. Your daughter is almost here. With a final tremendous effort, Talia pushed their baby into the world. She's perfect, Dr. Kim announced, holding up a tiny, crying infant. Completely healthy and beautiful. The baby was placed on Talia's chest, skin to skin. She was indeed perfect. 10 fingers, 10 toes, a head full of dark hair, and the most beautiful face either of them had ever seen. Hello, sweetheart, Talia whispered through tears. I'm your mama. Jonathan leaned over them both, his own cheeks wet with tears. And I'm your daddy. We've been waiting so long to meet you. The baby's crying subsided as she heard their voices, and her tiny hand grasped Talia's finger. What's her name? Dr. Kim asked as she completed the necessary medical procedures. Talia and Jonathan had discussed names for weeks, but looking at their daughter, they both knew immediately. Grace, Talia said. Grace Mitchell. Grace Michelle Mitchell, Jonathan added, wanting to honor Talia in the name as well. Perfect, Dr. Kim agreed, filling out the birth certificate paperwork. Later, as Talia rested in her recovery room with Grace sleeping peacefully in her arms, Jonathan sat beside them, marveling at how complete his life felt. Thank you, he whispered to Talia. For what? For answering that phone call months ago. For trusting me enough to accept help. For letting me be part of this incredible journey. Thank you for seeing something worth saving in a desperate pregnant woman. I saw someone worth loving. And I was right. Grace stirred and opened her eyes, looking up at both of them with serious, alert expression. I think she approves of us, Talia said softly. She better. We're going to love her for the rest of our lives. 2 weeks after Grace's birth, life had settled into a rhythm of feedings, diaper changes, and moments of pure joy watching their daughter discover the world. Talia was recovering beautifully, and Jonathan had proven to be a natural father, waking for night feedings and changing diapers with patience and skill. They were at home on a quiet Tuesday morning when the doorbell rang. Jonathan answered it to find a process server with another legal document. Thomas Rodriguez versus Talia Washington and Jonathan Mitchell, the server announced, handing Jonathan the papers. Talia's heart sank as Jonathan read the filing. Tommy was not only asserting his parental rights but also claiming that Jonathan had used his wealth to manipulate the legal system and alienate him from his biological child. He's demanding immediate paternity testing and supervised visitation, Jonathan reported grimly. And he's asking the court to investigate our relationship, claiming it's a sham designed to keep him from his daughter. But Grace isn't even his daughter legally. You're on her birth certificate. That doesn't matter if he's the biological father. The court will still consider his rights. Patricia Williams arrived within an hour to review the new filing and develop a response strategy. This is more aggressive than his first attempt, she noted. He's brought in a different lawyer, someone with more experience in custody battles. What does that mean for us? Talia asked, holding Grace protectively. It means we need to be prepared for a real fight. The good news is that you're now married, you have a stable home, and Grace is thriving. The bad news is that biological fathers do have legal standing, even when they've been absent. Over the next few days, Tommy's new legal strategy became clear. His lawyer filed motions requesting financial records, claiming Jonathan had purchased Talia's affection and was using his wealth to deny Tommy access to his child. Worse, word of the custody battle leaked to the local media. A gossip blogger picked up the story, painting it as a dramatic love triangle involving a billionaire, a pregnant janitor, and her abandoned boyfriend. Tech mogul's pregnant employee, love or lawsuit? Read the headline that appeared online. I'm so sorry, Talia told Jonathan as they read the article together. This is exactly what you didn't need. Bad publicity for your company because of my situation. Don't apologize for other people's actions, Jonathan said firmly. Tommy is the one creating this mess, not you. But the media attention brought unexpected consequences. Jonathan's business partners began expressing concern about the negative coverage. Some clients questioned whether the personal drama would affect his professional judgment. During a particularly difficult board meeting, one of the senior members addressed the situation directly. Jonathan, we're concerned about the impact this custody battle might have on Mitchell Industries' reputation. Perhaps it would be better to distance yourself from this situation until it's resolved. The situation you're referring to is my wife and daughter, Jonathan replied coolly. I won't be distancing myself from my family for any reason. But surely you can see how this looks from the outside. A wealthy executive swooping in to rescue a pregnant employee, then marrying her and fighting her ex-boyfriend for custody. The optics are challenging. The optics would be worse if I abandoned my family when things got difficult. That's not the kind of man I am, and it's not the kind of company we are. Despite Jonathan's strong stance, the pressure was taking its toll. Talia could see the stress in his face and the way he stayed up late dealing with both legal preparations and business concerns. Maybe we should settle with Tommy, she suggested one evening as they sat with Grace between them on the couch. Give him some visitation rights so he'll stop making trouble. Absolutely not. He doesn't deserve access to Grace, and rewarding his behavior will only encourage more of it. But it's affecting your work, your reputation? Jonathan turned to face her fully. Talia, do you remember what I told you about my mother and Robert Chin? Yes. She gave up her happiness because someone made things difficult. I watched her spend the rest of her life regretting that decision. I won't make the same mistake. The paternity test results arrived the following week, confirming what everyone already knew. Tommy was Grace's biological father. But Patricia had prepared them for this outcome and had built a strong case around his abandonment and their current family stability. Biology is just one factor, Patricia reminded them. The court will consider what's best for Grace's emotional and physical well-being. The custody hearing was scheduled for the following month. In the meantime, Tommy's lawyer continued filing motions and making public statements designed to portray Jonathan as a wealthy manipulator who had stolen another man's family. He's getting desperate, Patricia observed. These kinds of tactics usually backfire in family court. But Tommy's desperation led to an escalation that none of them anticipated. He began showing up at places where Talia and Grace might be. The grocery store, the pediatrician's office, the park where she liked to walk with the stroller. He's not violating the restraining order technically, Patricia explained. He's not approaching you directly or making contact. But he's definitely trying to intimidate you. Jonathan hired a security firm to provide discreet protection for Talia and Grace when they were out in public. The additional precaution was necessary but made Talia feel like a prisoner in her own life. I hate this, she confided to Rebecca during one of her visits to the office. I feel like I'm living in fear all the time. It's temporary, Rebecca assured her. Once the court hearing is over and the judge sees Tommy for what he really is, this will all be finished. But temporary felt like forever when you were living it every day. The breaking point came on a rainy Thursday afternoon. Talia was leaving Grace's pediatric appointment when she found Tommy waiting by her car in the parking garage. We need to talk, he said, not approaching but making it clear she couldn't leave without acknowledging him. Talia's security guard was immediately at her side. Ma'am, would you like me to call the police? That won't be necessary, Tommy said, raising his hands. I'm not breaking any laws. I just want 5 minutes to talk to the mother of my daughter. She's not your daughter, Talia said firmly. You gave up any right to call her that when you walked away. Biology says otherwise. And the court is going to agree with me. What do you really want, Tommy? Money? Because if that's what this is about, we can discuss it through lawyers. Tommy's expression hardened. I want what's mine. And I want your rich boyfriend to understand that he can't buy everything he wants. Jonathan didn't buy anything. He fell in love with me and chose to be Grace's father. Something you couldn't do. We'll see what the judge thinks about that. After Tommy left, Talia sat in her car for several minutes, holding Grace and trying to stop shaking. The confrontation had been brief and technically legal, but it felt like a violation anyway. That evening she told Jonathan what had happened. I'm increasing your security, he said immediately. And Patricia is going to file for a more restrictive restraining order. Jonathan, I'm scared that this is never going to end. What if he keeps finding ways to make our lives difficult forever? He won't. Men like Tommy eventually overplay their hand. He's getting more aggressive because he knows he's losing. But what if he doesn't lose? What if the court gives him visitation rights? Jonathan took her hands in his. Then we'll deal with it. But I have faith that the truth will prevail. Judge Santos has already seen through him once. She'll do it again. That night, as they put Grace to bed in her nursery, Talia found herself hoping Jonathan was right. Their daughter deserved to grow up in peace and security, not in the shadow of a custody battle with someone who had never wanted her in the first place. It's going to be okay, sweetheart, she whispered to the sleeping baby. Mama and Daddy are going to make sure you're safe and loved. Grace slept peacefully, unaware of the legal storm swirling around her young life. Looking down at her perfect, innocent face, Talia felt her resolve strengthen. Whatever it took, she would protect this child and the family they had built together. The courthouse was packed on the morning of the final custody hearing. Word had spread through legal circles that the case involved billionaire Jonathan Mitchell, and several reporters waited outside hoping for dramatic developments. Judge Santos entered the courtroom with her usual no-nonsense demeanor and reviewed the extensive file that had accumulated over the past months. This case has become more complicated than typical custody disputes, she began. Mr. Rodriguez, you're seeking joint custody and significant visitation rights with a child you had no contact with during pregnancy or the first months of her life. Ms. Mitchell, you're asking the court to terminate Mr. Rodriguez's parental rights entirely. These are serious matters that will affect this child for the rest of her life. Tommy's new lawyer, a slick-looking man named Stephen Hayes, stood to present his opening argument. Your Honor, my client acknowledges he made mistakes early in this process. However, he has since recognized his responsibilities and is prepared to be an active, loving father to his biological daughter. The fact that Ms. Mitchell married a wealthy man and now enjoys financial security doesn't erase Mr. Rodriguez's fundamental parental rights. Patricia Williams countered with a calm, factual presentation. Your Honor, Mr. Rodriguez abandoned Ms. Mitchell when she was most vulnerable. He provided no support during pregnancy, showed no interest in the child's well-being, and only surfaced when he learned that she had achieved stability and happiness. His recent behavior, including stalking and intimidation, demonstrates that his motivations are not about the child's best interests. Judge Santos called Tommy to the stand first. Mr. Rodriguez, explain to me why you believe you should have custody rights to this child. Tommy had clearly been coached by his lawyer. Your Honor, I was young and scared when I first learned about the pregnancy. I made the mistake of walking away, but I've grown up since then. I want to be a father to my daughter. What specific steps have you taken to prepare for fatherhood? Tommy looked uncertain. I've gotten a steady job and found a better apartment. Have you taken any parenting classes? No, Your Honor, but I'm willing to. Have you purchased any baby supplies or prepared your home for an infant? Not yet, but I could. Mr. Rodriguez, this baby is now 2 months old. If you truly wanted to be a father, wouldn't you have taken these steps already? Tommy's composure began to crack. I've been dealing with legal issues and trying to get my life together. Legal issues? Tommy's lawyer objected, but Judge Santos overruled. Answer the question, Mr. Rodriguez. I had some minor charges for disturbing the peace and harassment, but they were dismissed. Patricia stood. Your Honor, those charges were related to Mr. Rodriguez's behavior toward my client. He was arrested for following her and making threatening statements. Judge Santos made notes and continued her questioning. Mr. Rodriguez, what do you know about your daughter's current health, development, and needs? Tommy looked blank. She's healthy as far as I know. Has she had her vaccinations? Is she meeting her developmental milestones? Does she have any allergies or medical concerns? I don't know those details. You don't know because you haven't been involved in her care. That's because they won't let me see her. You haven't seen her because you chose not to be involved until it became convenient for you. Judge Santos called Talia to the stand next. Ms. Mitchell, describe your daughter's current living situation and care arrangements. Talia spoke confidently about Grace's routine, her medical care with Dr. Kim, her development milestones, and the loving environment she and Jonathan had created. Your Honor, Grace is thriving. She's meeting all her developmental targets, she's healthy and happy, and she's surrounded by people who have loved her since before she was born. Tell me about Mr. Mitchell's role in your daughter's life. He's been her father in every way that matters. He was with me during labor and delivery, he gets up for night feedings, he changes diapers, he reads to her every night. He's legally adopting her because he wants to be her father completely. How would visitation with Mr. Rodriguez affect your daughter? Talia's voice became stronger. Your Honor, Grace doesn't know Mr. Rodriguez. To her, he's a stranger. Forcing her to spend time with someone who has shown no genuine interest in her well-being would be traumatic and confusing. When Jonathan was called to the stand, his testimony was equally compelling. Your Honor, I didn't marry Talia to keep her from Mr. Rodriguez. I married her because I love her and wanted to build a family together. Grace may not be my biological daughter, but she is absolutely my daughter in every other way. Are you prepared for the financial and emotional responsibilities of raising another man's biological child? She's not another man's child, Your Honor. She's my child. I've been her father since the day she was born, and I'll be her father for the rest of my life. The most damaging testimony came from Dr. Kim, who appeared as a witness for Talia. Your Honor, I've been caring for this family throughout the pregnancy and after birth. Ms. Mitchell was an exemplary patient who prioritized her baby's health despite difficult circumstances. Mr. Mitchell provided crucial support that ensured both mother and baby received excellent care. The baby is thriving in their care. In your medical opinion, would disrupting this child's current living arrangement be harmful? Absolutely, Your Honor. Grace has bonded with her current caregivers. Introducing a stranger into her life at this critical developmental stage could cause significant emotional distress. Tommy's lawyer made a final desperate argument about biological rights and second chances, but it was clear the momentum had shifted completely against them. Judge Santos recessed for an hour to consider her decision. When she returned, her expression was serious but decisive. I've reviewed all the evidence and testimony in this case. While I recognize that biological parentage carries legal weight, the court's primary concern must be the best interests of the child. She looked directly at Tommy. Mr. Rodriguez, you had numerous opportunities to be involved in this child's life, beginning with supporting her mother during pregnancy. You chose not to take advantage of those opportunities. Your recent claims of wanting to be a father are not supported by any concrete actions or preparations. Tommy's face grew red, but he remained silent. Furthermore, your behavior toward Ms. Mitchell since reasserting your parental claims has been inappropriate and concerning. Following her, confronting her in public places, and using legal proceedings to harass rather than genuinely seek the child's best interests demonstrates that your motivations are questionable. Judge Santos turned to Talia and Jonathan. Ms. and Mr. Mitchell, you have provided this child with stability, love, excellent medical care, and a secure home environment. The child is thriving under your care and has bonded with both of you. Therefore, I am terminating Mr. Rodriguez's parental rights entirely and granting Mr. Mitchell's petition for adoption. This child deserves parents who choose to love and care for her, not someone who treats parenthood as a legal claim to be asserted when convenient. The courtroom erupted in quiet celebration from Talia and Jonathan's supporters, while Tommy stormed out with his lawyer trailing behind. Outside the courthouse, Patricia hugged them both. It's over. Tommy has no more legal standing, and Mr. Mitchell's adoption is finalized. Grace is officially and completely your daughter. That evening, they celebrated quietly at home with Grace sleeping peacefully between them on the couch. I can't believe it's really over, Talia said, looking at her wedding ring and then at Jonathan. We can finally move forward without looking over our shoulders. What do you want to do first? Jonathan smiled. I want to take you and Grace on a proper honeymoon. Somewhere beautiful and peaceful where we can just be a family. And after that? After that, I want to watch you go back to school to become the nurse you've always wanted to be. I want to expand our family foundation to help other single mothers in situations like yours. And I want to spend every day loving you and Grace and building the life we've dreamed about. 6 months later, Talia was enrolled in an accelerated nursing program while working part-time at Mitchell Industries. Jonathan had established the Grace Foundation, providing support for pregnant women facing financial hardship. 1 year after Grace's birth, they attended the foundation's first annual fundraising gala. Talia, now a second-year nursing student, gave a speech about the importance of hope and kindness in changing lives. A year ago, I was a pregnant woman working multiple jobs and worried about my future, she told the audience. One phone call, one person's willingness to help, changed everything. Not just for me but for my daughter and now for countless other women who will benefit from your generosity tonight. She looked out at the audience and found Jonathan's eyes. I learned that accepting help isn't weakness, it's wisdom. And giving help isn't obligation, it's opportunity. The opportunity to change someone's entire world with a single act of kindness. Later, as they danced to soft music with Grace sleeping in Jonathan's arms between them, Talia marveled at how different her life looked from just 18 months ago. Do you ever regret it? She asked Jonathan softly. Taking a chance on a desperate pregnant woman? Never. Best decision I ever made. Even with all the drama and legal battles? Especially because of those things. They proved that what we have is real and worth fighting for. Grace stirred and opened her eyes, looking up at both her parents with the serious, intelligent expression that had become her trademark. Hello, beautiful girl, Talia whispered. Mama and Daddy love you so much. Grace smiled, a real smile that lit up her entire face, and reached tiny hands toward both of them. She approves, Jonathan said softly. She should. She has the best daddy in the world. And the strongest, most amazing mother. As they swayed together on the dance floor, surrounded by friends and colleagues who had become family, Talia thought about all the ways her life had changed since that first frightening phone call. She'd learned that sometimes the best things in life come from the most unexpected places, that love can grow from kindness, and that accepting help with gratitude can lead to being able to help others. Most importantly, she'd learned that some phone calls, even wrong numbers, are exactly what they're supposed to be.